Imagine a world without money. How would you get the things that you want and need? Suppose you're a canoe maker and you want a chicken. Well, what you're going to have to do is make a canoe, then you're going to have to carry it around looking for somebody who's got a chicken. And when you find him, you have to hope that he wants a canoe. Then you've got to decide how many chickens is a canoe worth, will you exchange for, then do the transaction and carry your chickens home. It's very, very inconvenient, and with all of these search costs and effort to find trading partners, you're probably not going to spend nearly as much time actually making canoes and creating things of value. Eventually what happens in an economy like this, an economy that depends on barter, is that some good begins to circulate as a medium of exchange. Suppose that everyone wants salt. So you've made a canoe, you can trade it for salt. Then eventually you find somebody who's got chickens. He may not want a canoe, but he wants salt. So the trade is pretty easy to do. A medium of exchange lowers the search costs. Plus, what happens is all prices begin to be quoted in terms of salt. Rather than having to figure out how many chickens a canoe is worth, the salt acts as a kind of common denominator. It's called a unit of account. A third thing that happens is if salt can be stored, you can sell your stuff for salt, put salt in your warehouse, and spend the salt when you want stuff in the future. That is, it can be a store of value. Now you've got something that's functioning as money. Money is anything that is commonly accepted in exchange for goods and services. That is, anything that's actually used and accepted for shopping. Now, let's be very clear about the way the term money is used. When we talk about money, we are usually talking about exchange, that is, things that can be traded. Whenever you say money, you might talk about the money you have in the bank, that is, the value that you have stored up. But typically, when economists are talking about money, we're concerned about those tools that are used in society to make shopping easier to do. The functions of money are unit of account, medium of exchange, and store of value. Now, the earliest forms of money, like salt, are all commodities, things that are valuable for their own sake. Commodities, cattle, wine, tobacco. In fact, some places in the world today, occasionally, when the paper money is worthless, people will still use cigarettes in transactions, maybe to pay for a cab ride, or in prisons. Often, cigarettes circulate as money, are commonly accepted in trades. What is it, though, that's going to be the best kind of money? The best kind of money is going to be durable, that is, it doesn't melt or rot. It's going to be portable, easy to carry around. It's going to be standardizable, that is, everyone can look at it and clearly see it's valuable. And it's going to be divisible, that is, it's pretty easy to make change from. So, what's going to be ideal? What commodity best serves? Well, one commodity that's pretty good is gold or any of the other precious metals. Actually, in antiquity, people probably thought that this gold and silver and other precious metals were valuable because it reminded them of the celestial bodies, which many of them saw as signs of the divine. Once these things are commonly accepted and agreed upon as valuable, then you can cut them up into standard sizes and make coins that can circulate as money. Pretty easy to carry around, and everybody knows they're good. Now, one problem with this is a sack full of gold is pretty heavy. So what's about to happen in history is we're going to witness the evolution in the ancient world from people actually carrying commodities around to carrying around pieces of paper that represent claims on the commodities. So you put all of your gold with the goldsmith somewhere, he gives you a certificate that stands for gold, and now you can pay in shopping with the certificate, representative money. Once people are accepting pieces of paper, the next step is that you don't need any gold to back it. That is, the government simply says this money is valuable. This is a movement from commodity money and representative money to what we call fiat money, money that gets its value from the word of law. Now, the way the government gives money value is, first, it requires that you hold this money to pay your taxes, and the Army stands behind that, so unless you want to run afoul of the structures of authority, you've got to agree that this is valuable, and you've got to come up with some at tax time. The second thing the government can do is it can declare that this is legal tender. Legal tender means that it's good for settling debts. If I owe you money and I give you legal tender, then you can't sue me because the government will throw out your claim in court because I settled it with an instrument that everyone says, by law, has to be accepted. That's what fiat money is all about. Now, why should we care about money? Money makes transactions easier to do, and if there's enough money, then business proceeds normally. If there's too little money, then people revert towards something kind of like barter. They don't specialize, they don't trade, and in the modern world we call that a recession. The economy slows down when money and credit are difficult to get, and business activity slacks off, employment is down, and we get a recession. On the other hand, if the government is printing and circulating too much money, then we've got too much money chasing too few goods, and that creates inflation, an excess supply of money that drives up prices. So there's a fine line to walk between too little money and a recession and credit crunch, and too much money and inflationary pressure, rising prices. So the Federal Reserve is the monetary authority of the United States. It's charged with making sure there's not too much money and not too little money. That is, it's charged to making sure that money retains its value by prices remaining stable. That means the Fed has got to make sure that there's just enough money. So that raises a question. If the Fed is trying to measure money, what in practice is it actually measuring? What is money? And this question has several answers, depending on who is willing to accept something in exchange for goods and services. Let's think about a very, very narrow measure of money. What is the stuff that everyone's willing to take in transactions? What can you use to pay for your groceries? What will the pizza boy accept whenever he delivers your pizza? The answer is cash. Everybody will take currency. Everyone will take coins. And most people will take personal checks and traveler's checks. If you add up currency and coins in circulation, the total sum of personal checking accounts and business checking accounts, and you throw in traveler's checks, you've got a measure of money that the Federal Reserve calls M1. This is the narrowest measure of the money supply, and in the U.S. economy it adds up to about $1 trillion. Now, let's make the measure of money a little bit broader. Let's include other things that we might call near money. The Fed's concern here is how much stuff is actually out there circulating through the economy to make shopping possible. That is, how much shopping are people capable of doing with the existing money supply? So the Fed is now going to say, well, this is how much stuff is actually being used to pay for shopping. And remember, even if you're using a credit card, you're eventually settling it with a cash or check. So the next question is, how much stuff is out there poised, about ready to be converted into a spendable form? This is near money. And it includes, well, first of all, your savings account. It includes also certificates of deposits, especially the small ones that consumers use when they're saving for things. It also includes the money market mutual fund shares that you hold. Maybe you have a money market account that you use ever so often, writing a check to transfer into your account, your checking account, whenever you need to pay tuition or something like that. All of these measures, these broader measures of money, are called M2. M2 includes everything that's in M1 plus these additional instruments. See, these measures of money are inclusive. M1 is the narrowest measure, and M2 includes everything that's in M1 as well as some other stuff. In this case, savings accounts, certificates of deposit, and money market shares that are held by households. Finally, there's one more layer to this. We now can add other things that are less frequently used for shopping but represent a store of wealth that will be used for shopping before too long. These include larger CDs. CDs in an amount over $100,000 count as large negotiable CDs. Frequently, these are used to settle businesses between banks. Also included in this near money measure is repurchase agreements. These are arrangements where businesses lend their checking accounts overnight to banks so that banks can invest them and earn a little bit of interest in the global markets overnight. These repurchase agreements are secured by treasury bills. That is, the bank gives IBM treasury bills overnight in exchange for IBM's checking account. In the morning, the transaction is reversed. The treasury bills go back to the bank, and IBM gets their checking account to do their business transactions with. These larger and less liquid, that is harder to convert to cash, forms of savings are part of M3. M3 is the broadest measure of money that the Fed tracks in its effort to figure out how much stuff is actually available to support shopping. So M3 includes everything that's in M2 as well as larger CDs, that is CDs in amounts over $100,000, repurchase agreements, the money market mutual fund shares that are held by businesses and pension funds, insurance companies, and other financial institutions, as well as Eurodollar deposits, that is money that's held in overseas branches of U.S. banks. Put that all together with the savings savings accounts and small CDs and the currency, coins, and traveler's checks, and you've got M3. M3 is the broadest measure of money that the Fed watches. Now, M3 adds up to about $6.5 trillion. That is, if you include everything that's either payable to the pizza boy or could be converted into a checking account relatively quickly, you've got a lot of purchasing power circulating in the economy in the form of money. So the Fed measures the money supply, and we're going to be studying soon how the Fed controls the amount of money that's actually in circulation. But this is an important thing to know, because the amount of money helps the economy, or there's an amount of money that's right for the economy. It helps the economy do its business. Too much and you get inflation. Too little and you could get a recession.